Hey y'all, it's B. Give me a second, making sure that I have sound and tag a couple folks. And shit. I mean, shoot, I'm trying not to cuss so much these days. Y'all pray for me on that one. All right. Hey, Regina. All right, guys. So I'm tired. You might see it and you might hear it in my voice, but I'm going live because I said I would. And I'm also being really brave right now because this is the happy ass heathen edition of self-love, just a revelation that I had about it for myself. And some people may find this thoroughly sacrilegious, others may understand it. But it's just a revelation that I have for myself because I've been doing a lot of, videos lately. I've been going live pretty much every day talking about how our mothers affect our relationships, our self-esteem, all the stuff, how we see each other, how we see ourselves, for better or for worse. And maybe some of you remember a video that I did at the beginning of the year. Actually, it was in January. It was a video that I did where I was just completely naked emotionally. And I was talking about how I was struggling with what I called rejection codes and just feeling like I had a message that I wanted to share, a part of me that I felt was very valuable to women, but I was afraid to bring it forth because I knew that ultimately saying things the way that I say them, how I feel them, and from my perspective would ultimately bring rejection. And so I did that video, and I'm just telling you, since it was the best thing I could have done for myself by sharing that and being completely honest about what I was struggling with, because I'm telling you, I have done a 180 since that video. And I have grown so much, like, I'm getting all emotional right now. I've grown so much, you guys. You guys don't even know. So much. And I had a revelation the other day, and that revelation was that I fully and completely accept myself and love myself, not just a part of myself, not just how we say, oh, I love myself, and then it's in the superficial, for what I feel is superficial when we're talking about the skin and the melanin and the outward things. Don't get me wrong. Attractive people have benefits in this world, and it is what it is, right? When I was younger, I said, okay, well, I will never get a speeding ticket, because if I do, I will just bat my eyes and just say, officer, I didn't know I was speeding. And, I wouldn't get a speeding ticket. And lo and behold, my first speeding ticket, it was a woman, and she was not having it, right? But anyway, I struggled for a really long time. And what I realized was that the struggle started with my mother and having those rejection codes imprinted upon me. And I finally came to a point, after a lot of work, after a lot of self-reflection, after a lot of identifying the programs and choosing to release them, sometimes not exactly knowing how I was going to get rid of them, but just being aware that they were there and moving with my intention to be whole by literally just dropping them inside of my therapist's inbox. You guys have heard me. I told her, look, accountability, that don't work for me. I'm accountable to myself. Unless you mean something to me, accountability is not my thing, right? But if I drop it in your inbox, it's because I've identified it as being something that's no longer useful and a program that I am intentionally getting rid of. And I'm letting you see what it is so that you can help me. And so I've come so far. And the other day, I had a time with myself. I had church with myself, and I had my candle going, and I was listening to my music, and I was just so overwhelmed with love and appreciation and compassion and acceptance for myself, right? Not based on my motherhood, not based on my name. And I'm gonna talk about that name. So put a pin there. Not my name that's attached to my husband, because so many, and I'm gonna say this, so many Black women, we want to be chosen so bad, and we can't wait to have the name attached to our name because the name gives us value, right? It's such a trap. But in that moment, I realized, wow, I have come to this place where it is true. All of it, all of it. And so I was talking to my daughter and I was saying, wow, the messages right now for a lot of women are, when it comes to self-love, the messages are, self-care Saturday, get your nails done, take your bath, do all these superficial things. And I like those things too. I'm very girly, but let's not mistake it. Those things are a Band-Aid for a lot of us. And most of us, especially if you look like me, right? People get really upset when you be honest about your experiences in your culture and stuff like that. A lot of the girls that look like me don't really know what real love is. We don't know what true love is. We haven't experienced it. We haven't seen it. And a lot of us are so damaged from our relationships that we basically have some form of, what is it called when you, if you guys are in the chat, you can tell me, because I'm hungry and I'm tired, okay? When you latch onto your abuser, right? And you tend to think that the abuse is love because that's what you're accustomed to. So if grown up in certain environments, the men you attach yourself to will likely have those traits because your mother is your first love and this is how she treated you. And so you magnetize that type of person to you, those type of men, those type of women, so that they can continue abusing you, and then you mistake it for love, et cetera, et cetera. So I was thinking to myself, what is the greatest form of self-love, like, that you can have for yourself, that's like real, tangible, innate, skin deep, cellular deep, that's authentic, that's apart from the name that's attached to you, that's apart from your experience with your mother, probably, I'll go back there, that's apart from your kids and all of the duties that you have. And for me personally, and this is going to sound blasphemous as hell to some of you guys, but hey, it's my truth, okay? For me personally, it was my relationship with Jesus. And you guys know that I'm not a religious woman, okay? So it is what it is. If you're here, you got to know that. Take the good with the bad if that's how you feel about it. But when I was in relationship with him, there is nothing that I would not do for him. I lost my home rather than rob God. I continued to pay my tithes and offerings, even though we had already got the foreclosure notice, but there was no way in hell I was going to take money from God, from my perspective at that time. I lavished him with abundant, extravagant love. I would not allow my family to break my bubble. When they knew when I was in that Jesus bubble, when I was singing and I was in a state of worship and praise by myself, they knew, do not bother me, don't call me, walk around me, act like I am not here, because I am in fellowship with God, right? And it was so precious to me, and I protected it. And I would not allow these people, my family, my kids, to come into that space. I don't care what was going on. I gave him my best with how I treated people, right? How I loved them. I did what I felt I could do, and I felt what was right, and I gave people my best with no expectation of it, because I knew that I was a representation of God, and he was excellent, and there was nothing mediocre, and there was nothing selfish in him. And so when I gave to others, I gave from that place. My time with him was intentional, on purpose, pre-established, unapologetically mine. In the morning, in the evening, I took time to study him and study his ways, to understand how his mind worked. So for me, self-love, coming from a place where I was not loved as a child, love was not something that I experienced, not in a form that I needed it to, okay? Because that's, oftentimes our parents did the best that they can do, and their best is raggedy as hell, okay? I do have, some grace for that, but that even having the grace, it doesn't mean that it did not affect me. It affected me in a great deal. But when I look at it, when I look about how I'm supposed to love myself, what is the most authentic way that I should love myself? It is exactly how I loved Jesus, right? Extravagantly, unapologetically, not allowing anybody to come before him, not allowing work, because I refused to take a job that would interfere with my service for God. And when I tell you that I was like about that life, like for real, extremely um, devoted, right? No pretend. I don't care what it costs me. Um, I was that person. Well, that's how we need to be with ourselves, from my perspective, right? And for those of us that did not grow up with it, and we had a relationship with Jesus, God, or some other deity who also had that love as being the foundation of it, when we're trying to figure out, like, what should this look like for me? Whether you have a husband, a boyfriend, your mother in your life, your kids in your life, or whatever, it should look like that, right? It should look like that. And you guys know that in the past, my work has been both practical and scholarly. And I can go into scriptures that will show you that it's literally supposed to look like that, and that there should be no guilt attached to it, right? It's like, Jesus counted it not robbery to be equal with God, and Jesus is in you, and you can't break off a piece of God and have it be less God, right? So that was my revelation about self-love, is that a lot of us don't even know what it looks like. You know what I mean? And so we get caught up in these cycles. That's really not love at all. Or we'll have children and then we'll say, oh, I love my children more than anything else. Mistake number one, right? My children, I live for my children. Mistake number two. Before your children, there was you. You were born into this world by yourself, and you're going to die, by yourself, right? And so when you love on yourself that way, there's no way you cannot give extravagant love and give your best to other people. And there's absolutely no way that you can't magnetize the very, very best mate to you, right? That will be for you exactly the same way, where we're not having these conversations online. Should a man, some just silly shit. Should a man defend you to his family, right? Well, when I was a Christian, I defended my faith like that. I defended Jesus like that, right? And so it's the same for you. It's no different. Well, for me, okay? Let me not project. So this is just me, how I deal with me, and sharing my ideas with you ladies. So this is not personal. I'm not trying to proselytize anybody. I'm just sharing what I've come to as a revelation for myself. This is my truth. And this is the best example of how I should be loving myself from here on and forever, because I don't know any more extravagant love than I had for whom was God to me, right? And so I will apply that to myself and continue to apply that to myself. But yeah, I had a revelation. It was such a beautiful time with myself. And in that moment, honestly, the last time I can truly say that I've felt that way and expressed myself in that way was when my time with Jesus, right? It really was. And I know that's hard to hear for some. But if you don't have any examples, like if you don't have any true examples where we'll say that a woman who having a true, healthy, loving relationship with a man, right? I'm not talking about because he brings home the bacon. I'm not talking about because he don't beat your ass. I'm not talking about that stuff, right? Because we tend to fragment, what makes a good man, what makes a good mother, right? But if it's whole in its totality, without having any defect, without having any flaws, what's the greatest example that you have? See, because I was trying to think about it, and I'm like, well, outside of that, I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe my mom. But see, I can't even say that because I still love my mother, but I am no contact with my mom. There is no way in hell I would ever be no contact with Jesus, right? I have said some in anger, frustration, justified, very, very angry things about my mom out of my voice. She's never heard them, mind you, but I've said them because I felt them. I would never allow myself to even entertain the feeling with Jesus. But yet we would talk about ourselves and we would talk so bad to ourselves, right? We have really, really bad self-talk, right? And the other day I heard myself say some shit that was so boss, right? And I mean like boss, like I mean that shit. I said, it is a privilege to be in my presence. You and everybody knows it. And I meant that. And I said some things about myself that were absolutely true, that the person that I was standing before surely felt that it was not humble. You know, they want us to be humble. But, you know, the older that I get, I'm 47, 50 is looking real damn good because I'm loving the way that I think and I'm loving my resoluteness and I'm loving how I stand in my own power, right? This authentic thing that starts to happen when you done seen some life and, you know, you see game coming and you're not having it, right? And so I saw something and the person thought that they were going to pull something over on me. And I'm like, no. You lucky that I even allow you to be in my presence, right? You know, and everybody knows that I'm the shit. And we're not going to pretend about this no more. Because at one time I didn't know it, but I know it now. And so, and I meant that from the bottom of the soles of my feet. But I'm gonna be honest, I meant it the same way that I meant when I would defend Jesus like that. There's no way, right? There's nothing more perfect. There's nothing more beautiful. There's nothing more intelligent. There's nothing more solid. There's nothing more honorable and glorious. There's no presence that you can be in greater than Jesus. Well, in that moment, I meant that for me, right? And not even like not playing. And in that moment, I was like, whoa, like it's cellular, you know what I mean? And my daughter, she's been watching my transformation over the years. And I'm telling you, ladies, the biggest compliment that you can ever have from your child, man, is to have your daughter who's been watching you, who knows things, right? She knows things that people don't know. And me and my daughter are very, very close. And she said, Mama, she said, it is such a beautiful thing. She goes, you have not gone through transformation. She said, you have gone through transfiguration, right? That is a completely different experience from what a lot of people, you know, are offering and selling. Transfiguration, it's nothing higher than that, right? To totally become something new and glorious and evolved. And to have my daughter say that she had witnessed that in me, right? It's such a beautiful thing. And I couldn't have gotten to that place without also having the revelation that I just told you about self-love. It is impossible. You cannot separate them, right? And so that's why on my post, I said, okay, well, some people that have a problem with it, they'll just have to go. I mean, either stick around and be like, okay, well, I don't like that, but I like this other stuff she do, or just go. Because I know, I'm not trying to think about it. I know. And it's such a beautiful thing. And when I think about all the women that have come along, I'll say over the last 3-4 years, that have helped me to come to that place. Oh my gosh, it is so beautiful. It is such a beautiful thing, this becoming. And I don't want to start naming off names because then surely I will forget some people. But I'm ever grateful to understand that and to know what it is. And so I don't want to keep this too long. But I just want to encourage you that if you don't know what that looks like, right? Because they just tell you to love yourself. But what the hell does that mean? Love yourself. How do I give you love and I don't even truly know what it is, right? Like I don't really truly know what it is. Well, then think about like what's the highest level that you've experienced thus far, right? And I want you to consider it might not be your kids, because when I think about my kids, it's like, well, there was a time where, you know, I almost wanted to wring my son's his neck. I told y'all the story. So I don't even know if that would apply, right? Because some stuff would be like, well, just they'll be all right. You know, some stuff I'm just going to let go. Um, it definitely couldn't be my mother, but it most certainly is Jesus, right? Just extravagant, abundant, chasing after, relentless, unapologetic, just everything. That is the closest thing that I've ever experienced to what love is. And as I think about self love for myself, I now pour that onto myself for me, right? I'm not humble about it. I'm not apologetic about it. I'm so grateful for my experiences because for me, I wouldn't have known it otherwise. I just wouldn't. I didn't come for that from that stuff, you see? So anyway, that's it. That's all. This has been a happy ass heathen moment with Coach B. But y'all know what it is. And I just wanted to share that with you guys. And then it's been a minute since I did a live. So, you know, tell me what you think about it. And I hope you found it, if anything else, interesting, but also insightful. And let me know, you know, do you got that? Have you reached that place yet? Can you honestly say that you have arrived there? And I don't know that I've arrived. I'm just telling you that I'm different. Like, you know what I mean? Like way different. You know what I mean? To the point where, um, honestly, guys, there's nobody that owes me an apology for anything. Like, I'm thankful for all of the players and that they played their parts, mama included, right? I'm at that place. And I'm grateful and thankful to all of them. So it's a good place. It's a good place to be. Um, Kind of makes me think about like my last, you know, you guys, I don't know, some of you guys know, I started a church in my home after I left church. And one of the lessons that I taught in there was about, one of the lessons that I taught in there was about, it wasn't, we didn't call it, obviously, we didn't call it Christ consciousness, but I talked about parakuletio, right? Um, Parakuletio. Mathetes is a student of Christ, but paratuletio means walking with the Christ mind, walking in step with Christ or the Christ mind. It's the transfiguration point. And that's the point of love that I'm talking about. All right, guys. So that's it. That's all. Let me know what you think. I will talk later. Bye.